Welcome to Life Stories, where real voices share raw, emotional journeys that touch the heart and soul. Today's story is about love, betrayal, and the painful search for truth. It's told from the perspective of a man who thought he had everything until a single decision in a courtroom changed his life forever. This isn't just a story about heartbreak. It's about resilience, identity, and the courage to let go. Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's story. You won't want to miss what comes next. I never imagined I'd end up in a courtroom like that, not as a criminal, not as some villain in a scandal, but as a man quietly drowning under the weight of suspicion and betrayal. The wooden bench beneath me creaked with every nervous shift, its edges sharp against my back, while the courtroom buzzed with whispers and the low hum of fluorescent lights. I sat there, fists clenched in my lap, staring across the aisle at the woman I once promised forever to Melissa. She stood tall, poised, her lawyer at her side, sharp as a blade. Her voice was calm but cutting, full of practiced indignation, like she had rehearsed this in front of the mirror a dozen times. "Jason has a duty," she said, shooting me a look over the rim of her glasses. "Logan deserves better than a father who shows up only with excuses." Duty. That word landed harder than it should have. She had the nerve to say that after all these years after the affair, after she confessed she had been with someone else once or twice, always vague, always dismissive, like betrayal was just a phase she passed through. I'd swallowed my pride then, clinging to the only certainty I thought I had left, Logan. Even after the divorce, I paid, every single month, on time. Not because a court told me to, but because I loved that boy. I still do. He was mine, or so I thought. That laugh, those bedtime stories, his tiny hand wrapped around my finger when he was born. I held on to those memories like they were anchors, even when doubt began to whisper in the dark corners of my mind. The judge, a weathered man with deep lines etched across his face like bark on an old tree, leaned forward. "Mr. Walsh, you've heard the petitioner's request. Do you have anything to say?" My throat was tight. My voice barely made it through. "Your Honor, I've done my part, but I have doubts. I need a DNA test." The room froze. Melissa didn't shout no. She exploded. Her voice cracked. Her arms flailed as she spat words like venom. "You are disgusting, Jason. 5 years. You're doing this now. You're pathetic weak." The judge raised his hand, silencing her. "Mr. Walsh, why now?" Why now? The answer wasn't simple. It was 1,000 nights of unanswered questions. Of Melissa coming home late, of her brushing of my worries with scarves and rolled eyes, of the way Logan sometimes looked different. "Because I've had doubts for years," I said, "and I can't live in that doubt anymore." Her lawyer tried to argue, said I'd signed the birth certificate. That, legally, I was already Logan's father. But the judge wasn't moved. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "The court orders a DNA test. We'll reconvene once we have the results." Melissa stormed out. Her heels clacked like gunfire on the floor. I didn't move. I sat there, heart pounding, staring at the empty space where she had stood. I'd done it. I'd said out loud the one thing I had buried deep for years. On the drive home, everything from our past rushed back: her distance, her coldness, the nights she said she was just out with friends, and Mark, my brother, always dropping by. Always charming, always too comfortable. I poured a glass of whiskey that night, sat in the dark of my small apartment, and thought about Logan, his smile, the way he'd call me dad, like it meant something eternal. But what if it wasn't real? What if the truth shattered all of it? And yet, as much as it hurt, I needed the truth. I needed to know if I built my life on love or on lies. Because there's something far worse than being betrayed. It's living in denial of it. The wait began. A week, maybe 2, long enough to tear a man apart. But no matter the outcome, I knew one thing. I would face it. I wouldn't run. Not anymore. The days after the courtroom felt like I was moving through fog, thick, heavy, endless. Every morning, I'd wake with that knot in my stomach, checking my phone for a message from the lab that never came. My heart pounded, not because I didn't know the truth yet, but because, deep down, I did. Melissa didn't waste time. My phone lit up with her name day after day. Long messages, at first emotional, manipulative. "You're tearing Logan's world apart," she wrote. Then they turned cold and bitter. "You're a coward, Jason. Always have been." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Work at the garage was my only escape. The smell of oil and metal, the clink of tools, the hum of engines, they gave me something to hold on to, something real. But even there, the questions followed me. My CEO workers noticed my bloodshot eyes, the way I kept to myself. They didn't ask. I was grateful. That Friday, Troy dragged me to a little bar we used to haunt in college summers. Same sticky tables, same jukebox playing songs that made the beer taste colder. He slid a bottle my way and said, "You look like you've been hit by a freight train." I forced a laugh. "Melissa's still at it. Says I'm abandoning Logan." "She's got some nerve," he said, shaking his head. "Cheats on you, leaves you, and now she's mad you want the truth?" I didn't answer. I just stared at the label on my beer, peeling it with my thumb. "You still think about Kyle?" he asked gently. I froze. That name cut deeper than any of Melissa's messages. "All the time," I said. "He was always around back then." Melissa laughed with him in ways she never did with me. And I paused. I brushed it off. I trusted them both. Troy's face hardened. "You ever find his jacket on your couch?" A random excuse why he dropped by. I looked up sharply. "Yeah, once. Said he came to borrow a wrench." I didn't even think twice. "You need to start thinking twice," he said. "He's always had an angle, Jason. Watch your back." That night, I couldn't sleep. I rummaged through an old box in my closet, pulling out a photo from Logan's 3rd birthday. There I was, holding the cape, Melissa blowing up balloons, and in the corner, Kyle, kneeling next to Logan, pointing at the candles. Logan's eyes, his nose. I'd never let myself see it before, but now the resemblance screamed at me. Another message from Melissa: "You're ruining everything." I deleted it, heart thudding. Then the call came. A lab technician, calm voice, no emotion. "Mr. Walsh, the results are in. The court will notify you of your next hearing." The test was done. Somewhere, in a sealed envelope, was the truth that could either rip me to pieces or finally set me free. And I wasn't sure which scared me more. The courtroom felt smaller the day we returned for the results. Like the walls had moved in, pressing against my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. I sat in the same seat, hands clammy, tight to tight. Across the aisle, Melissa sat stone-faced, her lawyer whispering something in her ear. She didn't look at me, not once. The judge opened the envelope slowly, like he knew what was about to unfold. "Based on the DNA analysis," he said, his voice flat, "Mr. Jason Walsh is excluded as the biological father of Logan Walsh. The probability of paternity is 0%. Further analysis confirms that Kyle Walsh is Logan's biological father with a probability of 99.98%. My breath left me like I'd been punched in the stomach. The room erupted, whispers, gasps, the judge's gavel banging for silence. But I didn't hear any of it. I was staring at Melissa, and for the first time, she looked at me. Her face was pale, her lips parted like she might speak, but no words came. It was true. Carl, my brother, had slept with my wife, and I'd raised his child as my own for 5 years. I don't remember leaving the courtroom. It's a blur of footsteps, murmurs, the echo of my heartbeat in my ears. I only remember the cold air outside, and Melissa's voice behind me. "Jason, wait." I turned, slow and heavy, like a man moving through mud. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice cracked, desperate. "It wasn't planned. You were distant." Carl was. He was there. I laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. "So I worked late to support us, and you rewarded me by sleeping with my brother?" She didn't answer. "And Logan," I said, stepping closer. "You let me raise him. You let me love him. You knew he wasn't mine, didn't you?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. Behind her, Kyle appeared, guilt painted across his face. his usual cocky grin replaced by a hollow stare. "Jay, man, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. Just once." I didn't believe him. Not anymore. "You my brother," I said, voice shaking, "and you wrecked everything." Then I turned and walked away. Back home, I stood in the center of my apartment, unable to breathe. Logan wasn't mine. Not biologically, but my heart still ached for him. Not because he was gone, he never really belonged to me, but because I still loved him, and that love, no matter how painful, wasn't something I could just turn off. In the weeks that followed, I started therapy again. Dr. Patel said something that stuck. "You're grieving not just the people, but the life you thought you had." He was right. Melissa showed up one last time with Logan beside her. He looked up at me, smiling, innocent. "Hi, Daddy." And my heart broke all over again. I crouched down, smiled back, and said, "Hey, buddy." Then I stood, looked at Melissa, and said, "I'll help him through a lawyer. But you, we're done." That day, I chose peace over pain. And I finally let go. Months have passed since that final day. I looked into Logan's eyes one last time and let go of the life I thought was mine. The pain hasn't vanished completely, but it's no longer sharp. It doesn't cut like it used to. It lingers like a scar reminding me of what I lost. Yes, but also of what I survived. Melissa never came back after that. Carl disappeared too last I heard. He moved out of state, running from the wreckage he helped create. I don't care anymore. I've stopped asking why. Some questions don't deserve answers. I still think about Logan. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of a boy at the park with hair like his, or I hear a laugh that sounds too familiar. And in those moments, I allow myself to smile not out of sadness, but out of gratitude. Because for 5 years, I gave that boy everything I had. I was a father in every way that mattered. Now, I live quietly. I go to work. I play guitar again. I fish with Troy on the weekends. I've made peace with my own company. I'm learning that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting the truth and choosing to grow from it. So if you're still here, still listening, thank you. Thank you for walking with me through this story, through the heartbreak and the healing. And if you've ever been betrayed or left picking up the pieces alone, know this: you are enough. If you found something meaningful in this story, don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories. We've got more raw, honest, and emotional stories coming your way. Hit the bell so you never miss a moment. See you in the next one.